Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ushanka Show – Stories about life in the Soviet Union. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи, в эфире программа Ushanka Show. A while back I made a couple of videos about highest paid jobs in the Soviet Union. Among them were taxi drivers and waitresses. And today we're going to talk about another profitable profession, working as a sailor in the Soviet Union. But before we begin talking about Soviet sailors, I would like to go back to the topic of Soviet waitresses and clarify a couple of details. So I noticed that several comments like this one. Yeah, maybe in little towns a waitress or waiter doesn't make much in the USA, but in even medium-sized towns, good waitresses take home a good living. Well, at least in Texas, where tipping is encouraged. Or there's one. I've seen professional waitresses on the west side of LA average $150 plus a day on tips in nice restaurants. You add that to $60 a day in wages and you have $1,100 a week. So it looked like I did a poor job explaining the whole financial situation of working as a Soviet waitress, so I'll try one more time. Okay, so back in the 70s, early 80s, an average salary in the Soviet Union was about 150 rubles per month. And that's engineers, workers. Actually, some workers could make more money than engineers, but about 150 rubles per month. And just to give you the comparison, the highest paid people, like workers-wise in the Soviet Union, were probably coal miners or people that worked the oil rigs. They were making about 500 rubles per month. Now, working as a waiter or waitress and doing all those shady deals that I described in my video, those people could pocket up to 1,000 rubles per month. So while an average Soviet worker would make 2,000 rubles a year, including the annual bonus, waitresses could make that in 2 months. And let's do some basic math. So 12,000 rubles Soviet waiter or waitress versus 2,000 rubles an average Soviet worker. So you have 6 times higher take home for the waitress versus average salary in the Soviet Union. And I just looked it up. According to Forbes, the average salary nationwide in the US as of 2023 was $59,428, so $60,000. Okay, so now if we go back to the comment about professional waiters and waitresses on the west side of LA, they could take home about $1,100 a week times 52 weeks, it's $57,000 a year. So professional waiters and waitresses can earn an average salary in the United States, which is about $60,000 a year. Now, Soviet professional waiters and waitresses could earn 6 times the average. That's the difference. Not the average, 6 times the average. So if we go back to the calculator, $57,000 that professional waiter in LA would earn times 6, it will take us to $342,000. So this is comparing apples to apples. What was Soviet waiter making? $342,000 versus professional waiter in America, $57,000. Huge difference. And similar situation with Soviet taxi drivers. They were in the same ballpark, about 1,000 rubles per month. So picture you work as a taxi driver in America and you're making $340,000 a year. And another small detail, don't forget that Soviet Union had extremely affordable housing. So the Soviet waitress, while making 1,000 rubles a month, would pay for her apartment maybe 10, maybe 15 rubles per month, while poor waiter in West Side LA probably pays several $1,000s for a tiny apartment. I apologize for this long detour, but I hope my explanation made sense. And now let's talk about Soviet sailors. And let's start with a short lesson of Russian language. Урок русского языка. In Russian language, sea is море. So seaman or sailor is моряк. Море is sea, and моряк is a seaman. Моряк. And of course, we're talking not about Navy sailors, but a commercial fleet sailors. In order to become a моряк, a sailor, a person needs to attend ПТУ, профессионально-техническое училище, or trade school, which used to be called мореходка, and most of those were located in the port cities like Odessa or Leningrad. Мореходка, sailors trade school. Since being a sailor could be quite a lucrative profession, there was a lot of competition to get in those sailors trade schools, мореходки. And I read that there were like up to 20 to 30 people per spot to get in those trade schools. After graduating from Marichotka, young sailors would work mostly the domestic routes, rivers, lakes, whatever, and counting days till they will prove themselves to be qualified to start doing international routes. That's what the money were, in international trips. And going overseas was considered big deal, so every Soviet sailor had to sign this расписка, which can be translated as a receipt or written promise, and it says the following. Расписка. Я моряк морского флота Союза Советских Социалистических Республик. I, a sailor of the Sea Fleet of the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, heading to work on a ship for the foreign destination, personally read the rules of behavior of the Soviet sailor abroad, and as a patriot of my socialist motherland, I promise to do just that according to the rules. Сознательно и честно, so honestly to act as book tells me. I promise to maintain honor and dignity of my socialist motherland. It's amazing. Хранить честь и достоинство. Не разглашать государственные тайны. Do not share state secrets, as well as the rules of правила поведения советского моряка за границей. So, you don't tell any state secret as well. You don't tell people what's in that book about rules of the Soviet sailor abroad. And of course, perform my job, my duties, and be an example for other sailors. And I was told that I will be punished if I break the rules, and that's why I'm signing this расписка. Amazing document. In my videos, I mentioned many times the word уравниловка. Уравниловка, so that's like the equalizer. And that was the policy of the Soviet government in order to keep everyone somewhat equal. Everyone was getting paid about the same, around 150 rubles a month, no matter what you do. So the salary for the Soviet sailors, regardless where you worked, international routes or domestic routes, was the same, 150 rubles per month. But on the international routes, on the top of your 150 rubles salary, at the moment when the ship leaves the Soviet Union, every sailor will be getting what they call in America per diem, so additional pay of 22.5% of your salary. That 22.5% per diem translated into 33 rubles per month. So it's a nice little bump, but those 33 rubles were not regular Soviet rubles. They were special. They were called инвалютный рубль, foreign currency ruble. And this is the wild part. So the Soviet trade fleet had its own currency, which was also called ruble, but it was this kind of monopoly-looking cash issued by the Банк для внешней торговли СССР. So it's a foreign trade bank of the Soviet Union, and it was only for the sailors. So there were several ways you can use this sailors' monopoly money. The easiest way, well, imagine you travel for 6 months. So you left Odessa, you went, for example, to get bananas in South America, you came back. After 6 months, you got 900 rubles in Soviet rubles plus 198 rubles in this monopoly money. They called them bony. Every Soviet port like Odessa, Vladivostok, Leningrad had those special seaman stores, called Albatros, and I already made a video about it. I'll provide the link below in the comment section. Those Albatros stores sold mostly foreign goods, boom boxes, cigarettes, whatever, jeans, and they only could be purchased with this funny money. So now our sailor had several options how to increase his income. So remember, he earned 900 normal Soviet rubles and 198 special rubles. Right next to the store, there'll be young people hanging out, and they will happily buy off you these special rubles, and the rate of exchange could be between 15 to 20 to even sometimes 30 rubles per the special ruble. So by cashing out your special seaman rubles at the rate 1 to 15, suddenly you have additional 2,970 normal Soviet rubles. So that brings your salary from 150 rubles per month to 645 rubles per month. Doing really nothing, just cashing out those special Seaman rubles. And your second option could be walking into Albatross store and using your 198 special Seaman rubles to buy Japanese boomboxes, American jeans, American cigarettes, alcohol, whatever, and then you resell those items and maybe you'll get even better rate of return. So that would be the most basic, easiest way to make extra money for a Soviet sailor. You just save all the per diem, you don't spend it in the ports, you bring that money home and then you cash out by selling it on the street next to the store or buying goods and reselling the goods. But of course, Soviet sailors figure out they could do even better than that. If you bring goods with you to the foreign countries and then you bring goods back, you could do even better than that. So depending on the destination, Soviet sailors would bring along vodka, black caviar, war medals, so-called юбилейные rubli, so that's the large 1 ruble coins for collectors, even Soviet cigarettes, cameras, and any other items that they knew they could sell in the ports and get extra money. And before I forget, fun fact, Soviet sailors preferred old, slow ships because more days you out in the sea, the more per diem you make. They actually had a joke that old ships with their beat-up old engine sounds like dollar, dollar, dollar. Meanwhile, new high-speed engines sound like cent, 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 cent. So you make way more money going on slow ships because, for example, going from Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky to Japan, on a newer ship you can make that trip in 4-5 days max, while old slow ships will take them a week. And now back to the topic of vodka and caviar. So Soviet sailors had to be careful because customs had specific rules how many items you were allowed to take with you. For example, this document is the rules for the Soviet tourists, but I bet you applied also for the sailors, how many items you can bring with you on a trip. Only one camera, only one movie camera, film camera, one radio, 400 grams of black caviar, only 1 liter of alcohol, 2 liters of wine, 250 cigarettes, and so on. So everything was limited. And of course, even like says different souvenirs, it says в разумном количестве, is like in reasonable amount. So then upon arrival to a foreign port, the sailors will bring their goods on shore, and usually those ports will have special stores that catering specifically to Soviet sailors. You know, they have signs in Russian language, they'll have goods that sailors are interested in, jeans, boom boxes, and they'll buy cameras, caviar, vodka, and then people will buy goods, whatever they want to buy to resell or for their own use. I found a story that some sailors specialized in lipstick, so they'll buy a box of lipsticks, so 120 lipsticks for $60. Then upon return home to the Soviet Union, they will sell for 5 rubles a single lipstick. So out of $60, he'll get 6,000 rubles, huge profit. And if he'll bring just one camera that he could buy for 150 rubles, like my Kiev 19, you sell it for $60 and you buy lipstick. Now you turn your 150 rubles into 6,000 rubles on one trip. Also, what I found interesting that the Soviet sailors preferred not to deal with currency. For example, they could sell goods for US dollars and then bring dollars back home, and they could sell them for like 4 or 5 rubles per dollar, make profit as well, but it was too dangerous because it was illegal to deal with foreign currency in the Soviet Union. Article 88, so-called butterfly article, because 8 and 8 together looks like the wings of the butterfly, and you could get from 3 to 8 years of prison if you're getting caught selling foreign currency in the Soviet Union. So sailors preferred trading goods. You give the camera, you get lipstick back, and there's no dollars in your pocket. One story I found extremely interesting, it's like super mega profitable. A guy smuggled a case of vodka, sold it in some port, purchased a satellite dish with receiver for that money, brought it back home, sold it, and it was enough money to purchase 2-room apartment. So that's 1990. Also, in the middle of the 1980s, VCRs were such a hot commodity and extremely expensive commodity in the Soviet Union. So people were managing to exchange VCR for one-room apartment. By the late 1980s, there was a new fantastic business opportunity for the sailors. They were allowed to bring back cars, and the money could be made in purchasing used second-hand Lada cars in Western Europe or even in Canada, and then you bring them back and you sell them for good money. And those so-called export Ladas had more bells and whistles, were better made than regular Lada cars, so they were desirable and people were willing to pay extra money. So yeah, just like being a taxi driver or a waiter, being a Soviet sailor was extremely lucrative and prestigious job. People were making crazy money. So this 150 ruble a month that he was making officially was nothing compared with additional 2,000 or 3,000 rubles a month he could bring by trading, selling, reselling goods. But of course, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, all those business opportunities evaporated, since now companies could bring goods by truckloads and there was no more deficit, no more shortages, and Soviet sailors became just sailors. Okay, my friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this story. As always, please don't forget to like it, post your comment, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.